Hello, guys of United Rock Nations. We are an amazing company with Danny of Cradle, filth. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So
And we
Formula,
are, and we are here, of course, to talk about the new album, The Screaming of the Valkyries. In the past interviews, you mentioned that writing an album is a long and demanding process. Uh, what was the most unexpected challenge you faced while working on the new album?
I think, yeah, the most unexpected challenge was trying to write it on the road because we since the pandemic we've been very frivolous on touring. We've been touring a lot, 3 years, 4 years worth, and henceforth why the album took so long to write and record because we were constantly um, going out on the road. We'd do the drums and the bass, go on the road, come back, do the guitar on the
Oh,
road.
uh,
Um, and subsequently, we actually ended up setting up little studios in hotel rooms in the US, which is something we have done in the past, but not really to that extent. I mean, I'm not saying we did it all the time, but it was definitely um, something new for us to do it to that uh, degree. Bearing in mind we had two new members, and obviously the remit is when they join, they're part of the family. They're part of Cradle of Filth. They're expected to do many things, including, you know, be part of the music, not just there for a pretty face. And so, yeah.
So, was there a particular moment during the songwriting or recording phase where you felt you were pushing into new creative territory?
Into new territory, did you say?
Yeah, creative territory. Yes, a new
It's
creative
what?
territory. A new creative territory.
Um, Well, I think every album is a bit like that. It's all the unknown space, you know. You don't know how people are going to react. You don't you don't know if you're going to be considered as current. It's just a gamble, really. Um, it may not seem like it, but there's a lot of bands out there. Um, a lot of bands that sound similar. A lot of bands that are doing new things because they're just from marrying different genres. They've had the luxury of watch others genres come and go. And it's also very difficult to be original nowadays because everything's been
Absolutely.
regurgitated so much. So yeah, it's always a worry. Um, I think you get to a point in the studio where you start feeling like this mix is sounding good now, where you get a little self-confident, where you think, you know what, this isn't too bad, and but it's always a challenge. Um, Overnight, everybody might just not find you relevant anymore. They might think, it's not really. And yeah, you just have to do your own thing and trust in your own judgment, really.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the lyrics. If there are special topics you talk about on the streaming of the Valkyries, I know that it's not a concert album, but for sure you have choose some topics that you want to talk about. So tell us all about that.
But there's many subject matters on the album. A lot of them are very positive.
Oh,
Um, the actual album title though came from the last song, which is probably the darkest thematically on the record. Um, when misery was a stranger in the song, um the great cataclysm of the end of everything's happened. It's already occurred, and the protagonist is looking back, obviously thinking, Jesus, and we thought life was bad back then. We were living in our golden years. And it was kind of inspired by the fact that I found out, due to the Russia Ukrainian conflict, the thing between Israel and the Middle East, China, whatever, all these conflicts going around the world, that we're been pushed inevitably closer to midnight on the doomsday clock. And so it just threw up all this imagery for me. And I was thinking, as well as a very heavy metal album title, the line in that song that reads "The Screaming of the Valkyries" would be a great album title, because it's almost like metaphorically hearing the end of everything, that the Valkyrie, who were protectors of Asgard, warrior, poet, princesses, whatever, were the last vestige of hope. So if they were overrun and slaughtered, it would be, the fall of the world, fall of Asgard, and Ragnarok. And it would be just a horrible thing. It'd be like the inevitability of seeing a tidal wave, like vastly above you, or Godzilla coming out the sea, or just an atomic explosion happening. At that point, that's it. There's no coming back from that. So I found that to be a strong metaphor. I thought it was a good title. Sounds very heavy metal. Voila.
Absolutely. So just before you talk about the Ukrainian war, Israel and Palestine, Trump, so are you afraid about what is happening now in the moment in the world?
Well, um, my partner's Russian, and obviously is dumbstruck about what's going on as everybody else. I mean, she's British, but she's Russian. And so I have been following that. And I have Ukrainian friends living very close by here, where I live in England as well. And they're friends as well. And both of them can't understand, you know. And yeah, I've been following it very, very closely. Everything about it, doing all my own investigation into it. And because I love touring both those countries dearly. I mean, it was really opening up over there. It was amazing. But yeah, it is worrying. There are aspects of it where we're very close to disaster. I read a book actually inspired by it, by a woman called Anne. I think her name's Anne Jacobson, and she wrote a book called "Nuclear War: A Scenario." It was a New York Times bestseller of last year or the year before, and it just paints a scenario, having interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people on both sides of the Cold War, from bunkers up to top brass in the military, early warning system radar users, everybody, people who polished missiles, everything, and made this virtual story that almost happened up. And it goes from missile launch to end of humanity in about approximately 140 hours. And it's just terrifying, like just terrifying, most terrifying thing I've ever read.
I will read this book. Okay, thank you for
Well,
the
actually, to
information.
be fair, I listened to it on Audible, which was even worse,
Yeah.
because yeah, it, it sunk in a little bit more.
Let's talk about music. It's better.
Yes, please, let's do it.
There's a song called "To Live Deliciously" that I love a lot, but it evokes a dark pleasure. So tell us more about that song.
Well, yeah, I guess the mantra of "To Live Deliciously" is just that. It's to um, indulge desire and darken, albeit with a bit of respect and dignity. But yeah, if you, there's a lot of things to fall in love with in this world, and you can overly fall in love with them, and just the world's a beautiful place. It sounds very positive, but even just if you're like a massive, like gore grind, death, black metal fanatic, you obviously have a strong love for that kind of music. So that's what I'm just saying. All your weird uh eccentricities and uh yeah, just weird fetishes and whatever. indulge in them, enjoy them. Why, life is too short.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you described in a past interview that Exangin Dracula is one of your personal favorites song. So why this specially song is one of your favorites?
Because it's very old school. It's one of those songs that really, it kicks off. It's fast. It's melodic. Um, it reminds me a little bit of around 96, 1996, like Dissection, what we were doing, early sort of Scandinavian stuff, like In Flames were doing back then, Marduk, etc., etc. It's just it it felt good for me. And I named it after, I actually have the saying tattooed here, of the blood
Oh,
of Dracula. And it just seemed very apt, that song. As soon as I heard it, I thought that's exactly what it should be about. Um, Pure escapism, going deeper than just vampirism, a bit more than just Gothic literature, something that can be scraped beneath the surface and you realize that it's about companionship and blood being thicker than water, um, just in a totally gothic landscape, I guess. Um, and it's just a great song. It keeps going at you. Um, very, very atmospheric. It's just my favorite one.
so one of the most aggressive song of the album is, of course, Demagoguery. I say right, Demagoguery.
Yeah,
So tell us more about that. So it's a very aggressive track on this on the album.
yeah. It has a very fairy tale esque um, drop down in the middle where it goes just down to a very twinkly sort of music box sound and then builds slowly, creepily up to very sort of very atmospheric guitars. Um, yeah, I mean, this song, I don't try to align Cradle at all with politics, not at all. But you can sometimes be influenced a lot by the outside world and what's going on in your
Absolutely.
vicinity, in your universe, in your microcosm at that particular point in history. And I've actually related it back as far to, far as the gates of Eden, in respect of there always being something or someone willing to gossip, uh, to spread misinformation, disinformation, lies, whatever. And it's become more and more apparent nowadays with the onset of AI and tactical warfare that isn't on the battlefield, about how things are manipulated just by the spread of false news and misinformation that corrupts people, leads people to believe something. Zelensky, what President Zelensky's wife has just bought a 42 million pound Bugatti. That was one of them. This sort of shit that goes around. So you instantly, Europe's being invaded uh, by people from a certain nation, and they're doing this and they're burning the flag, and instantly people are like, oh my god. And you just don't know whether the truth is the truth anymore or whether it's just planted there in order to keep people in their place, wherever it is, on the aggressive foot or on the passive side. um and this is essentially what it's about, but it's not a new thing, obviously.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dissemination of fake ideas, you know we did it in the war. We did it sillily in the war. The British came up with the idea that if you eat loads of carrots, your eyesight would be better, and duped the Germans into thinking that's how good we were at shooting down their aircraft. They didn't realize we had radar. It was just a stupid, this sort of thing.
So as usual, the artwork cover of the album of Cradle of this album are amazing. So tell us more about what is the specific vision behind the new design, the new artwork cover of the new album.
Well, to be fair, there wasn't a great deal in it, other than what I call our nuclear blast years. The previous 3 records were all adorned with the artwork of Arthur Bazintz, the Latvian contemporary artist, who is amazing. And it was very hard to then say, you know, we're going to move on to someone new just to get a new, fresh perspective, especially as it's a new record company, a fresh new tenure with Napalm Records. So I was just looking for someone that was good, and Robert PK'd my fancy. I got talking with him. Long story short, I gave him the lyrics and said, go and interpret this. And then we'd have little conversations about, you know, color schemes and ideology. And yeah, I love it. I love the album cover itself. I love what he does with things. At first it looked like something that would be in the Louvre or in Florence, or, you know, National Gallery in London. And then you look closely and there's small perversions, like, you know, 2 pairs of eyes, little Hieronymus Bosch touches of things that are made out of weirder things. And it's just cool. A lot of metaphors in there. Obviously the cover has a little bit of justice and, you know, the figure justice, as well as, you know, various other attributes that all need sort of revisiting. And that's what's a good piece of art provokes, I think.
It's a great artwork. I love a lot. So let's talk about touring. Usually, Cradle of Filth show is a full sensory experience. What can we expect from the new shows?
Well, you say full sensory, but that means we need to start cooking for our audience as well. That'd be amazing, actually. You have to trademark that. Start cooking with music. Well, yeah, we're just pushing more and more. We're attempting to get to the stage now where we're going to be bringing a truck out with a bigger production. We're working on, again, on a 5-year plan that we started on before the pandemic. The pandemic was a reset for everything, really, I think. And since then, we played a lot of shows and getting back to a level we were at before, because obviously now fuel, tour buses, personnel costs, everything's more expensive. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just a little trickier. And bringing out, I mean, paying for a huge tour bus anyway, and usually a trailer. But if then you had to bring you'd lose the trailer, but you'd have to bring a truck is the next thing. And then you're doubling a lot of costs. But we're getting there. We've got some really cool ideas. We're having some stuff made at the moment. Our next thing is a co-headline on the Chaos and Carnage festival tour in America with Dying Fetus. It's got Ne Obliviscaris, Flesh God Apocalypse, other bands on it. Summer festivals all linked by shows with Nervosa supporting. And then we go to South America. So it's not really until next year that this will take effect. But that's our plan.
But I took a look at the concerts, at the tour. Of course, you will play some gigs in America until May, but we haven't seen any gig in France, and we are from France. Any possibilities to have a Cradle of Filth show in France?
Well, we played a couple of shows in France just before Christmas. We did a couple of festivals last year. I think festivals are being added. But again, we this year is mostly, aside from the bit in the summer that's going to be linking the festivals, this year's mostly Americas. Next year will be more the European market. If it's not going to be at the end of the year, because obviously we're probably talking plans up to about October at the present. So
okay, so we have to wait.
You do indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Danny, for all this information. We love a lot this new album. I remember for our listeners, the Screaming of the Valkyries. really, really great album. Thank you for the beautiful music.
Thank you ever so much. I just wanted to say the White Hellebore, the 5th song on the album, that's going to come out as a single and video in 2 weeks' time. So keep a lookout for that before the album's release on the, and I know this, the 21st of March.
Okay, fantastic. We will share the information. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And
Thank
see
you.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.